Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. It is yet another Friday, so of course you know what that means. It means I have yet another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. This week I am going to focus in and talk about books that have been made into movies. So, of course, I have titles that are based on huge classics that I'm sure everybody's heard of, and some titles that are based on books that are super obscure. The main common thread, however, is that they all result in really phenomenal films that are 100% worth watching. As always, all of these recommendations are available for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and they are available on our 3 video services, which are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So without any further ado, I want to go ahead and jump right into those recommendations. So sit back and enjoy. My very first recommendation, of course, comes from our CleveNet Overdrive service, and it is an adaptation of one of my all-time favorite mysteries, Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. Uh, this book has been adapted into, goodness, probably 4 or 5 different filmed versions, from movies to TV series to miniseries, and I've watched pretty much all of them. But this one is the classic from 1945 with Barry Fitzgerald. I mean, it really is kind of the definitive version of this story. And, no matter how many times I watch it, I always find something interesting about the film that I didn't notice before. Um, it's one of those stories where, of course, the very first time you watch it, it's utterly amazing simply because you're seeing the story unfold for the first time before you. But even subsequent watches of this particular adaptation will bring something new to the table. All of the performances are really, really quite nuanced, and the way that the scriptwriter was able to unpack a lot of Christie's novel, it just transfers so well to the screen when combined with those particular performances. It really brings these characters to life, and that's coming from someone who's almost always saying the book is better. I'm not saying the movie's better. I absolutely am not saying that. I strongly recommend absolutely everyone read Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. But if you never have, I 100% recommend checking out this film. It is suspenseful. It is thrilling. It is one of those films that makes you ponder what is going on, and it really makes you unpack the mystery yourself. And it's just so much fun. That's the other thing. Like, it is a lot of fun to watch simply because you have this mystery that is so well plotted out, that is so well executed on screen. So if you love mysteries, if you love suspense stories, if you love Agatha Christie and you're looking for adaptations that really have a lot of meat to them, 100%, please, please, please check out And Then There Were None, available on CleveNet's Overdrive. It is a fantastic, fantastic adaptation. Okay, moving right along to our recommendations from Hoopla Digital, I want to start these off with an absolutely gorgeous film called The Well-Digger's Daughter, which is a French adaptation of a book by Marcel Pagnol. Now, this movie is so beautifully shot. I mean, you've got like early 1900s French countryside imagery everywhere, and it feels so idyllic, but at the same time, you've got that hint of danger because of the war going on as well. So it's you've got these two emotions that are sort of juxtaposed, and that's throughout a lot of the movie, and I think it definitely adds a certain layer of emotion to every scene. Now, this film, besides having a gorgeous setting, has a really phenomenal storyline. It tells the tale of a single widowed father with this hassle of girl children. Um, he has no sons, and he has such a close, loving relationship with all of his daughters, especially his eldest. And it really, really focuses in on how relationships change with the different decisions we all make. And I think that's such a moving part of this particular film. Like the way that, you know, the threads unravel, but then also get mended within their relationships. Um, as I was mentioning, it takes place in the early 1900s, specifically World War One era, and the eldest daughter ends up having this illicit affair with a young pilot who lives nearby. The young pilot is from a well-off family. She is obviously the daughter of a well digger, so not from a particularly well-off family. Um, and while the two of them don't care about socioeconomic status, his parents, of course, do, so they don't approve. And um, this relationship between the two young lovers is really a central point of the whole story. Um, when things unravel between them because of his family, her relationship with her own father is altered. You know, and these little ripples that happen because of this one particular choice that the young couple makes, it really, really does color the whole film. And you know I love movies that look at these little relationships, these little dramas that happen to anyone, and it's such an average, everyday kind of thing. Um, and of course, you've got this super dramatic backdrop of World War One with the French countryside, and all of those elements working together result in a really beautifully done film. Uh, the acting is really wonderful. The relationships, especially the relationship between the young girl and her father, are so beautifully portrayed on screen. It really is a wonderful, wonderful movie. Uh, so even if you are not a huge fan of subtitles, definitely recommended. It's a particularly lovely film, and it's from Daniel Auteuil, who has done some amazing, amazing movies. He did one of my favorite films, Girl on the Bridge. Um, and he just always brings fantastic imagery to the screen, whether he's behind the camera or in front of it. In this case, he's both the well-digging father and the director, and I believe he's at least in part responsible for the adaptation. So again, Well Digger's Daughter, available on Hoopla. Excellent, excellent movie. My second recommendation from Hoopla Digital is for a lovely small film called I Capture the Castle, and this is a movie based on the book by Dodie Smith, and it's basically just this lovely little, very classic feeling English tale that primarily follows the young heroine who um, narrates most of the movie via voiceovers from her diary. Now, it takes place in 1930s UK, and it's all about this family that lives in a castle, but it's not some beautiful fairy tale castle. It's a falling down, ramshackle estate that they're just, barely clinging on to. And how their life changes when a neighboring estate is purchased by a young, incredibly wealthy American family. Um, as was, I think, typical for the times, uh, a lot of pressure was put on the daughters to marry well and to help bolster the family name and the family coffers. Uh, So a great deal of the film has to do with the relationships the eldest daughter in particular, has with this young, wealthy family of Americans, as well as, you know, this sort of coming of age tale of our primary heroine who is narrating the whole story. It's very bittersweet, but really lovely to follow along with. So if you like coming of age tales, if you enjoy British film in general, and you like period pieces, it's so lovely. I mean, the 1930s detail, from the costumes to the sets to the music, everything is so spot on. So I strongly recommend Capture the Castle. It also features a fantastic cast. Um, you've got Ramala Garai, you've got Henry Thomas is in it. You've also got um, Henry Cavill is in it, who of course plays Superman in the newer DC films. He's also been in Mission Impossible films. He's been in a ton of TV series as well. So um, they all do a really fantastic job with the movie. So if you enjoy British film, I strongly recommend I Capture the Castle. It is a wonderful, wonderful coming of age tale. My final hoopla recommendation is for the perennially lauded Dr. Zhivago, which is just this gorgeous, gorgeous film directed by David Lean, based on a novel of the same name by Boris Pasternak, and it's just an amazing, amazing movie. It's this it's the definition of a sweeping epic, and it follows the story of a young doctor named Yuri Zhivago, who happens to fall in love with this absolutely beautiful woman named Lara. Unfortunately, they are destined to be star-crossed lovers. He is already married to a very young, bright, socioeconomically appropriate woman. Lara, on the other hand, comes from a rather dark backstory. She ends up becoming the mistress of her mother's lover, who eventually casts her off. And so, of course, she ends up with a very poor reputation. Other circumstances happen that make it even worse. I mean, she has a dark backstory. But the two of them are just this perfect match. And it's really such a tragic, tragic love story, but it's beautiful. I mean, it is such a gorgeous film, both for the storyline, but then also just every element of it. The production is extraordinary. I mean, if you've seen David Lean's other work, like Lawrence of Arabia or anything like that, you know he knows how to film these huge films. Um, they're all epics. They're all extraordinary in their own way, and the settings seem to go on so much further beyond the screen. I mean, he knows how to build a world, he knows how to direct actors, and these actors in particular put in such phenomenal performances. You've got Omar Sharif playing Zhivago, you've got Julie Christie playing Lara, you have Rob Steiger, he plays Lara's former lover. Geraldine Chaplin even has a small role in here. She plays Tanya, Zhivago's wife. I mean, it's a stellar, stellar cast, and these people are all amazing in the roles that they play. So you have this huge, huge story, this epic romance, and all of that is set with a backdrop of the Russian Revolution. So you've got this dark, dramatic cloud hanging over absolutely everything, and you have these different elements all coming together in what is an absolutely amazing movie. So if you've never seen Dr. Zhivago before, I strongly recommend it. If you have seen it before, but you haven't watched it in a while, which is exactly the case, what my case was, go back and watch it again, because it's just as fantastic as it was the first time I watched it. So, Dr. Zhivago, available on Hoopla Digital. definitely worth a watch. All right, my last two recommendations for this week both, of course, come from our Canopy service, and the first of those is for the film The Professor and the Madman. Now, The Professor and the Madman is based on a book by Simon Winchester, of course, but it's also based on a true story, which is what makes this whole tale so thoroughly fascinating to me. Um, the story follows the case of a murderer who's confined to an insane asylum and his relationship with an Oxford University professor, and the way he heavily helped and worked on a project that eventually turned into the Oxford English Dictionary. That doesn't seem like it could possibly be a true story, but it is. It just seems so out there that I would, if I'd read the synopsis, just the synopsis, and I hadn't looked back, and I hadn't heard that it was a true story, I definitely would have believed it was a piece of fiction. Um, your two primary performances are from the murderer, Sean Penn, and the Oxford professor, Mel Gibson, and they both do such an extraordinary job. Penn, in particular, puts together such a nuanced performance as this deeply, deeply troubled man. He's confined to the insane asylum because, of course, he was convicted as not guilty by reason of insanity when he murdered this young man, who he didn't know. They had no relationship. It was just a circumstance where he thought he was being pursued. He was suffering from a massive delusion. And his storyline in general is just so tragic and so hopeless, except when you see him really find redemption through books and, through words and through helping work on this project. It really gives his life a sense of meaning, and watching that unfold on screen was really powerful in a lot of ways, and it was really lovely. I mean, it does hurt to watch some parts of this film, but it also is strangely uplifting in others. Um, and I will say Mel Gibson does a lovely job as the Oxford professor as well. He advocates for this man. He believes that redemption is there. It's a wonderfully beautiful, nuanced relationship. And if you're looking for something like that, if you're looking for a buddy film without the usual cliches and trappings of buddy films, um, with a pure, lovely relationship between these two characters, I think The Professor and the Madman was a fantastic movie, and I strongly recommend checking it out, um, both for the script itself, the story itself, and for the performances that you'll see. It's a really, really great film. And my last recommendation is for the movie The Child in Time, which stars Benedict Cumberbatch of Sherlock fame, as well as Kelly MacDonald, who always puts in fantastic performances. Um, this one's another heartbreaker, man. It's based on a novel by Ian McEwan, and it tells the story of the unraveling of the life of a man who loses his child. Um, and when I say unraveling, I mean unraveling. He was a successful children's author, and then things just sort of fall apart. And it's watching this happen. When you watch this happen, it's just, you feel all of the emotions. It's really phenomenally done. Like, the performances are exceptional, especially Kelly MacDonald, who plays um, Cumberbatch's wife. The story goes essentially that he and his daughter were out on just a regular market day outing, and he leaves her alone for a moment, and that's all it took for her to go missing. And you see McDonald's character go through all of these different phases of grief, and she's just amazing on screen. I mean, you can't take your eyes off her whenever she's on. And Cumberbatch, of course, he's always really such a capable actor, and you watch as his life unravels, and you feel all of those beats, and you feel all of the emotions that he's going through. And all this said about an unraveling life does not mean that the story is purely bleak. You actually, and this is not, I don't believe, a spoiler, see the full arc of how a situation like this happens, how little things can begin to turn your life around if you let them. How a lot of it is about choices, how a lot of it is about perspective. Um, and it's really, a beautifully done film about grief, but with hope potentially lying at the end of that tunnel. So if you're looking for something that's certainly going to tug at your heartstrings, but that is bolstered with exceptional performances and a really solid storyline, please check out The Child in Time. Excellent, excellent movie. And with that, that is this week's Film Rec Friday. I hope you did find something in these recommendations that you're interested in checking out. But if you didn't, if you have another film in mind that you think other people should check out, comment below. Let us know. I'm always looking for new film recs. Additionally, if you have any requests for future themes, please comment and let me know those as well. Love hearing back from patrons. And in general, we just like finding new movies to check out. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and wish everyone an excellent, excellent week. And we will see you next Friday. Bye.